Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. We appreciate you being here. It is Tuesday, May 21st. We'll start our meeting by introducing you to your City Council.
Council members Rolfing.
Here.
Staggers.
Present.
Aguilar.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Entenmann.
Here.
Erpenbach.
Here.
Jamison.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Thank you. Every meeting we start with an invocation. We're very, very blessed to have Dr. Eric McCandless, the pastor at Empire Baptist Temple here in Sioux Falls. We'd ask you to stand for that blessing. And then if you would remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, we'd appreciate that. Dr. Eric, welcome.
Our Father, we thank you tonight for the privilege it is to be able to call on you for wisdom, for guidance, Lord, to direct our thoughts and our attention to things that are needy and worthy of our attention tonight. I pray that you'd give all the council your wisdom on the various details that they need to go through. And Lord, tonight we also ask just a special time of remembrance for the issues that took place in Oklahoma just in the last few hours with the tornadoes going through and the destruction down there. I pray that you'd just be with those communities, the families, the EMS and law enforcement personnel, Lord, that you'd just give extra guidance to that situation as well. We thank you, Lord, for being able to have a God like you. I pray that you'd help us just to always remember how much we owe you. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll now move on to our consent agenda. Council, any changes?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Any comments? If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Entenmann.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison. Karski.
Yes.
Thank you. That has passed 8-0. Now move on to our regular agenda.
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Anderson.
It's been a motion by Councilor Urbanbach to approve our regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Any changes?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I would make a motion to amend the main motion by moving item 26 ahead of item 20.
I would second that.
Very good. There's been a motion to amend tonight's regular agenda by moving agenda item 26 before agenda item 20. It's been moved by Councilor Urbanbach, seconded by Councilor Karski. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Entenmann.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Any additional changes? A roll call on the amended agenda.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Entenmann.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Thank you. That has passed 8-0. We can now move on with our agenda and with our meeting. Again, thank you very much for being here tonight. This is an opportunity, if you want to engage the council on any topic. All we'd ask is that you just come forward, introduce yourself to the people of Sioux Falls, and then we'd ask you to limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Now, if there is an item on the agenda later on that you want to speak to, we'd ask you to hold your comments to that point in time. Is there anyone who wants to speak to the council? Welcome.
Hello, I'm Roger Algersma. I wish I'd come last week instead, because this is on a topic that happened last week, and I had opinions, but when I read in the paper, this is on selling alcohol at the Falls Park. When I read in the paper the reasons for why it passed, I didn't see those things coming, which is what motivated me to come now. The basic purpose of a park is not to make money. It's to add quality of life and give people a place to relax. And most parks have something about nature, and a waterfalls is particularly my feeling, and I don't expect everybody to agree, but if you can't relax from a waterfall, alcohol ain't going to fix your problem either. I think people should, the waterfall itself should be relaxing enough. The three illogical nonsense kind of reasons. The one thing is it got passed partly by making people feel that it would be safe by the falls from keeping the alcohol to go to the falls. And the way they did that was, or the way you did that, is to not allow open containers by the falls. Now it seems to me the alcohol in the open container is not the alcohol causing the problem. It's the alcohol in your blood that's causing the problem. And so unless you put a police officer by the back door of the cafe and make everybody go to the parking lot to drive when they drink instead of going to the falls, you're going to have alcohol by the falls because it's going to be in their blood. And that's the alcohol causing the problem. The second one is I didn't realize it was a police officer and his wife wanting to sell alcohol by falls. They're the people that see all the traffic accidents from alcohol. And it reminded me of some years ago, I wrote a letter to the paper that they didn't print about police corruption. Instead, they hired an ex-cop to investigate the police department. And one of my points was that Sheriff Milstead had wrote in the paper after he became sheriff that Hockey had been his mentor and he rode with him the first night on the job and thought Hockey was wonderful. Well, by then Hockey was in prison for all these methods he made money off the system, and now he sees someone going to make money off the parks, which maybe isn't illegal if you pass something that says he can do it. But that seemed kind of strange. And I had a third point. We don't usually do this. There are three illogical reasons. The alcohol in the blood, selling alcohol by a dangerous place makes no sense. Well, if I remember it, I'll have to email you.
Roger, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I realize that we don't generally respond to people, but when it's that factually inaccurate and that damaging to an individual person, I really have to say something, if that's all right with you.
Counselor, go ahead.
Sheriff Milstead is not involved in that business in any way, shape, or form. Rhonda Milstead, the owner of that business, who is the vendor at Overlook Cafe, made that very clear to us last week that the sheriff is not involved in any way, shape, or form. It's very important for people to understand that he is not involved.
Thank you, Counselor. Folks, is there anybody else who wanted to address the council before we move on with the other agenda items? Thank you very much. Item number 17.
Okay, my understanding is we're going to read item 17, take action on it, and then read items 18 and 19, and then take action on those.
Thank you.
Item 17 is a special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Sertoma Butterfly House in Marine Cove to be operated at 4320 South Oxbow Avenue for a Siouxland Republican Women fundraiser on June 13th, 2013.
Jamie.
Hi, Jamie Palmer, licensing specialist. I'll answer any questions you may have about this item.
Council, can I get a motion, please?
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve item 17. It was seconded by Councilor Entenmann. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson? Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 18.
Mr.
I-
Mayor,
Yes,
I
Councilor.
need to recluse myself from the next two items, 18 and 19.
Thank you, Councilor Entenmann.
Item 18 is a special one-day liquor license for South Dakota National Guard Enlisted Association to be operated at J&L Harley-Davidson, 2601 West 60th Street North for the 2013 Enlisted Association of the National Guard of the United States 42nd Annual Conference All-Area Night on August 20th, 2013. Item 19 is a special one-day liquor license for Philanthropy Promotions Incorporated, J&L Harley-Davidson, 2601 West 60th Street North for the National Association of State Aviation Officials event on September 30th, 2013.
Jamie?
I am happy to answer any questions on these items
Thank you.
as well.
Motion to approve, Rolfing.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Rolfing, thank you for making that motion, and Councilor Karski has seconded that. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 26.
Item 26 is a resolution limiting paratransit service hours.
Good evening. This is Sam Trebelcock, City of Sioux Falls Planning Office. This resolution that you have in front of you, we spent a lot of time with Sioux Area Metro discussing this, and then also we did at the Public Transit Advisory Board level. As you can imagine, Sioux Area Metro is very proud of the service that they provide for our citizens, for the entire transit system. And I think the City of Sioux Falls is lucky to have the system that we have. It's a system that's growing, and we have a lot of needs. And we are looking for ways to continue to expand that service. But as you can imagine, there are limits within the existing budget that we have now. And based on that, we needed to look at methods to kind of prioritize our service level, especially in the area of paratransit. So with that, I'd like to, at least to begin with, explain the resolution to you. I'm just going to read that to you because it is fairly short. Again, it's a resolution limiting paratransit service hours. Whereas there's been difficulty in maintaining acceptable Sioux Area Metro paratransit service levels due to capacity issues on the paratransit system, and whereas the Sioux Area Metro is required by federal law to provide comparable paratransit service levels within 3/4 of a mile of a transit fixed route. So therefore, be it resolved, the following changes to the Sioux Area Metro paratransit. And you can see that on the slide up here. I've summarized that on the slide above. Limit the service coverage area during peak travel times, which is 7 to 9 a.m. and 2 to 4 p.m. to locations within the 3/4 of a mile of a fixed route, except for current subscription trips. Now, current subscription trips are trips that people have scheduled that occur the same time every day. So those would not change. If they have a subscription trip, they can keep those, a current one. Limit the service coverage area after 6:30 p.m. to locations within the 3/4 of a mile of a fixed route. And then lastly, we would not accept any new or modified subscription trips to and from locations that are beyond 3/4 of a mile of a fixed route. What we've tried to do is keep this as limited as possible. The issues that we have right now are largest and most pronounced during our peak hours. So we've tried to find ways to limit it during those times. Actually, what our figures are, 60% of all paratransit rides are occurring during those 4 hours. So it makes it very difficult to maintain our level of service during those times, especially in the areas within the 3/4 mile area. Now you're asking, a lot of people are asking, what is this 3/4 mile area? What are you talking about? So that's why I wanted to go, and I think you have it in your slides. This is the map of the paratransit service area. The area that's in the dark black line, that's not city limits, that's our paratransit service area. And not all, that entire area is within 3/4 of a mile of each one of our fixed routes. That area is shown by the kind of bubble map area, the dotted line. That's actually within 3/4 of a mile of any one of our fixed route, any one of those 12 fixed route transit routes that we have. That area within the 3/4 mile area, we're required by federal law to provide services that are comparable to our fixed route service, which is essentially about a 30-mile headways or 30-minute wait. So we need to provide that same level of service for our paratransit people within that 3/4 of a mile area. What we're finding is it's becoming more difficult to do so. within that 3/4 of a mile area. You can see also on this map, it shows the number of pickups that we have. On a particular day, we did a survey. So the areas that are darker red, the more pickups that were at those locations. You can see the areas that are within the 3/4 of a mile area or outside, the number of pickups based on that. So it kind of gives you an idea where we're having our pickups. So why is this needed? Again, I've started talking about that, but I think it's important to expound on it a little bit. Now, federal law requires that Sioux Area Metro must provide comparable service to persons unable to use the fixed route system within 3/4 of a mile of fixed route. I mentioned that earlier. Right now, our current capacity within the vehicles and the staffing that we have is about 500 to 550 rides per day. Right now, what we're experiencing on current rides in certain weekdays approaching more 600 to 650 rides per weekday. Now, outside that 3/4 mile service area, that's a local option. We don't have to provide that. We're not suggesting that we drop that, but this optional service is certainly adding demand for rides to the paratransit system, and it can take away from that federal requirement rides within the 3/4 mile area. And that's something that we can't have. We need to provide that level of service, that comparable service within the 3/4 mile area. Also, paratransit drivers are hurrying to the ride locations to maintain those levels of service. That is a safety issue. We certainly don't want that. And we're finding on-time performance is slipping. It's not over 30 minutes, but it's certainly a lot of times. We're hearing more complaints that it is from time to time, and we're certainly approaching that 30-minute window. So with that, I know there's others that would like to comment, but I would tell you that the process that we go through for a service change is that we do take it to the Public Transit Advisory Board. I provided you with those minutes from a public hearing that we had and comments that were provided to our board at that time for your information. A lot of good comments, a lot of good information, and hopefully we were able to get, I think there's some confusion that we're also maybe doing more than we are. We're trying to limit it just to peak hours. And certainly the paratransit user could schedule it to another time. I think sometimes some people don't understand that whatever reservations paratransit receives, we have to fulfill that request within a certain period of time. We do it within a 24-hour period, and usually it's within a few hours of what they request it for. And obviously that becomes a great thing that we're having that many rides and that provide that level of service. But like I mentioned earlier, it makes it very difficult to provide it to the level that we need to in a safe way. With that, I'll take any questions you have.
Sam, thank you. Before we go to the council, I did want to welcome you to our meeting. This is an opportunity, if you want to speak to this item, to do so now. All we'd ask is that you come forward, introduce yourself to the people of Sioux Falls, and then just engage the council. So welcome.
Good evening. I'm Bob Boehm. I'm the Executive Director at Dakota Abilities here in Sioux Falls. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm very proud of Sioux Falls, and I'm totally respectful of Sam and all the work that these folks do. They do a great job on behalf of all of our citizenry and the folks with disabilities. I do have concern about this. It may not have an immediate effect on our folks, but it will certainly have a long-term impact if some of the other factors that are influencing this come to light. One of the factors, and by the way, we had a very vigorous discussion at the PTAB Advisory Board about this very topic. One of the things that I think we should celebrate is that our paratransit budget is as close to the fixed budget as it is. It shows that we treat our citizens who have less capability with a great deal of respect, and that works. I'm not sure what other options or all of which were considered, but there are rate increases and other things that are there. Now, what does paratransit mean to the people that you see in the room or folks that we all know? Respectfully, I think Councilman Anderson knows he has direct knowledge of that, having been involved with paratransit. It will have an immediate impact on some, very little on others. One of the things that concerns us is 3 of the houses that we have will be directly impacted, one that we've had since 1996. And in the last couple of years, we went through a financial crisis. Now, unfortunate for a lot of people, but fortunate for us, we were able to be in a position to get some stimulus money and build 2 houses for people with developmental disabilities, both of which are very close to 57th Street and are outside the 3/4 mile that's being talked about here. The immediate impact won't be significant because we have subscription rides, which Sam talked about. That's great. But in the longer term, my concern is what are we going to do for continuing to provide that service, which is both sides of the argument here. I'm sorry, but it is. So as Sioux Falls grows by 3,500 people a year or 4,000 people a year, so does proportionately the number of people who have disabilities in Sioux Falls. They come here for the same reasons. It's a good place to live. They come for the health care. They come for the sports. They come for all the same reasons we do. And I'm concerned that this issue will impact them and will provide some things that they're no longer able to do. My respectful solution would be to freeze it the way it is and not necessarily make some cutbacks, but I'll bow to the wiser voices. And I know there are others who want to speak as well, so thank you for listening. I'll answer any questions if you have some for me.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to the council? Please. Could we get Sam or Mike, could you take the microphone over there, please? Thank you. Thanks, Sam.
I want to know how we'll do something in the evenings. I would really like to know. I want to know how we'll do something in the evenings. I would really like to know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This is Shelby Roberts from one of the houses out that's in the
Could you repeat her name, please?
Shelby Roberts.
Thank you, Shelby. Appreciate that. Thank you. And we'll do our best to answer that later on, Shelby, but thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to the council? Sam, would you take that? Thank you.
Heather Boucher.
Sam, could you again introduce her, please?
It's Heather Boucher, and I'm her mom, Debbie. And 32 years ago, we live in a rural farming area, and we weren't able to secure all the services we needed for Heather. And so we, as a family, decided to look at the different options throughout South Dakota. We looked at Rapid, we looked at Huron, we looked at Aberdeen, we looked at Brookings, and Sioux Falls. And Sioux Falls, by far, was able to provide all the services we needed. The living services, the medical services, the entertainment, the leisure, and shopping. Was that one too? Yes, shopping was one, and transportation. Heather has been in Sioux Falls for 32 years, and as a parent, I have been able to watch with the living facilities and the staff to bring her to her fullest potential, and that's what we all want as parents. And Sioux Falls was able to provide that for us. And we want to thank you for that, because it's been really marvelous. What is going to be difficult for us now, with this change, Heather can go to work and she can come home. how many of us want to do that? What do we do after 6:30? We go out to supper with friends. We want to go to the show. Some of us get pedicures. Some of us get manicures or hair done. Or we have girl time. Or when we come down from Pier, we want to go out as a family. Some of those things are going to stop for us. She's had those for 32 years. Imagine in your life right now if tomorrow, if you have plans at 6:30 to go out with your best friends or you're going to go to your neighbors and you don't get to go. Think of what that's going to take away. That's what's going to happen with Heather. And I want you, to think about, and again, we appreciate what Sioux Falls has done so far. It's been great, but we're going to take some steps back here. And I want you to look at her and say, you don't get to go to the show. You don't get to go to Rib Fest. You don't get to go to the Parade of Lights. That's part of life. And another part of this that really concerns me, there are 7 clients right now in Heather's home. She's on 38th and Sycamore. If one of those individuals was to move and someone new came in, they're not going to have access to this. So the 6 that are there could get paratransit. The 7th one can't go. They have to stay home. Because you're not going to add anybody new, as I understand it, correct? Okay. So imagine what that's going to feel like. Put yourself in that position. That's a big concern, too. So, yes, it is. But we do want to thank you for the last 32 years, but just consider the next few for her. Thanks.
Heather, Debbie, thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wanted to engage the council? Please come forward. Welcome. If you just introduce yourself to the people, we'd appreciate that.
Find the microphone. There it is. I feel like Stevie Wonder. Elvis has entered the building, by the way.
Very good.
My name is Jeff Kissiker, Mayor,
Welcome, Jeff.
and thank you, and council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak with all you folks today. A couple of you know I know personally, Councilman Staggers and Councilman Karski. I have had the opportunity to know both of you professionally and a long time ago in school, so I appreciate the opportunities. But I'm standing here today as an employee who's been employed at Esurance for the last 7 months. I work a noon to 9 p.m. shift. And right now, one of my rides is out of their proposed prime area as a subscription ride. However, the way for me to get home is not. It's after 6:30 p.m. That ride is also well outside of the 3/4 of a mile of a bus route. And my concerns are that as an employee, for example, today, I made a modification to my rides today so I could work this morning, work today during the day so I could be here to share some things with you folks this evening. Because this is a very, very important issue for people with disabilities who are trying to be as independent and quote, normal as we possibly can. The only way we can do that is through accessible and affordable transportation. And I ran some calculations. I live not too far from where that group home is off of Sycamore, which is about 2 blocks from the 3/4 of a mile. Now I have a very nice apartment. I have my son that lives with me. I could go to the expense of moving to a place that I could try to find within the 3/4 of a mile to fit their niche so that I wouldn't be pigeonholed into areas of the schedule that I can work within and still have a full-time job. I need to provide for my son, myself, and the opportunities that families need to have in society. A number of years ago, paratransit didn't provide service at night. It was a huge deal to expand to nighttime service, and liberating at the same time to people with disabilities who use the service. If there were more fixed routes in more areas of the city that went past 6:45 p.m. in the evening, public transit makes or breaks good cities. Sioux Falls is a very good city. I really enjoy living in Sioux Falls. I grew up here. But I will say the public transit system, looking at the fixed route, hasn't changed significantly since I was in high school. And I do celebrate proudly my 30-year reunion this year. My concern is with the paratransit, with the proposals that they're making, that if I need to change my subscription rides, they're not going to allow me to do that. If I have a training on a given day for work that forces me to work, for example, say 8 to 5 or 8 to 4:30, I'm not going to have the flexibility to do that. What am I going to do? I'm either going to pay a taxi and likely have to pay $20 to $30 per trip to go. I'm going to have to try to find a ride from a friend or recruit a family member to give me a ride. I think they're trying to do some good things. They really, I think they're trying, but I think they're premature. I don't think they included the PTAP board, or the TPAT, whatever you call it, the Public Transportation Advisory Board, but they didn't include those of us who use the system to help come up with resolutions that are going to make this functional. I think my recommendation would be along with Bob's, and that is to freeze it as it is for now. Let's look into it, but involve those of us who use the system to make it better. Any system can make it better, you know, and all of you folks I know want quality for all citizens in our city. Let's take a serious look at this and think outside the box and see where we come. The city has invested so much in this in our community. With the event center, sure would be nice to go to that if I can get there. So let's think about those kinds of things before we make rash decisions on what to do with paratransit. Thank you so much.
Jeff, thank you very much as well. Is there anybody else who wanted to engage the council? Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Greg Johnson. I'm on the advisory board and have been for 3 years. Just a few comments that I'd like to make. My first meeting for the advisory board was actually not one of the regular city meetings, but I was told I could have an option to attend, and this was over 3 years ago, a meeting where there was an open invitation to a lot of nonprofits and agencies in our community all gathering together, remembering this is over 3 years ago, to see how can we share resources and transportation from all of these agencies to work together and provide both relief for the public transit system and work together to use resources in every agency in a wise way. So that's been going on for 3 years with some success and some sharing. Dakota Abilities and also South Dakota Achieve participate, and so I know that's working. More than a year ago, Sam started to work also with users of the paratransit service to look at what users could possibly be accommodated to use the fixed route rides. And so that initiative has been going on for some time with varied results as well. So people who would normally take a paratransit ride had an opportunity to talk about if they could use a fixed bus. And those buses have been accommodated in different ways as well over those years. So I wanted to make the point, I guess, that this is not a new topic. It's not a new concern. The City of Sioux Falls, folks who have been involved in this topic have been looking at this and worried about it and concerned for years, as have all of the great agencies that assist people in our community. Let's see, other points I guess I wanted to make was to comment that how diligent the City of Sioux Falls, the people that we get to work with, and the SAM people have been about this concern. Every month our meetings go on Monday afternoons, and we are there with an open invitation to everybody to come every month to talk to us about concerns ongoing. And I guess the last comment I would like to make is about empowering people. The advisory board just gets very excited about empowering people, all people, to get to where they want to go, where they need to go, and where they should go. What I think you've heard tonight from everybody who has spoken is really about development. And to me, a lot of it's about economic development, getting to go to where you want to work, getting to go to where you want to shop. In my career, I hear from employers regularly, and I have for years, about the opportunities for employment that are sometimes missed because people can't get to a job. With public transit, they can't afford their own vehicle, gasoline's expensive, so more employment would be available if the bus just went further. So I've enjoyed working on the board, and a lot of good work has happened, but decisions need to be made as well. I think the city and SAM have thoughtfully for years thought this out, and to me this proposal sets the stage for serious consideration for what has to be considered when next year there's another 5% increase, which has happened I think 3 years in a row in the ridership for paratransit. It's going to happen, 5%. So with this proposal we can afford to do what we're doing now with 500 to 550 trips a day for paratransit, and we're at 600 or 650. Every month we talk about safety. We want people to be able to safely take rides. One of these proposals is about people just not eliminating the service during those peak hours, but about making sure that the quantities of people served can be served in a safe way as well. More capacity, more drivers, more buses would solve that problem. But I guess my final word would be this is about making decisions and setting the stage for opportunity in transit in Sioux Falls in the future. And I think that's how the advisory board is looking at it. How can this be an opportunity to be knowledgeable about the future for transit in and around Sioux Falls? So thanks very much.
Greg, thank you, and thanks for your stewardship as well. Thank you. Would anybody else like to engage the council? Well, truly, thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate that, and don't leave. The council may have some questions. Greg, can I ask you a favor? Sam, can I ask you a favor? There were two questions before we go to the council. One was, what will happen after 6:30? That was a question that was relayed over here. And then I think the other question was, have you or will you involve those that use the system in the decision making? And I think that Greg answered that a little bit in terms of the advisory board, but any comments on that before I go to the council?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, on the first question, what we're looking at is after 6:30 is outside of that 3/4 mile area, that is a difficult service area for us to provide. So inside the 3/4 mile area, it's still the services will be provided for nighttime service.
Okay.
So that'll be the change.
Thank you.
That's recommended. And then also on the second question, in terms of how we're going to look at long-term getting people involved in the process, we're kind of in the middle stages of a fare and operations analysis that we will be taking to the public here probably in the next month or so. and we've already had stakeholder comments and involvement. We've had a Public Transit Advisory Board and quite a bit of the public already. But I think that's an important next step because we are looking at some significant challenges for the overall transit system. There's no doubt about it. We want to continue to provide additional services, and we need to figure out the best ways to prioritize that.
Thank you, Sam. Council, would anybody? Yes, Councilor Staggers.
Yes, Sam. I guess one concern I have about hearing the presentations tonight is this 3/4 mile thing. Now, I understand it's a federal regulation, but to me, we should be establishing priorities for rides. For example, if somebody has to have a ride to get to work or to a medical appointment, those are definitely high priorities. But going to a movie, it seems like it's a much lesser priority. Is there any way we can establish priorities where we get people going to really important,
There really isn't. Within the 3/4 mile area to begin with, and it's hard to distinguish in a lot of times when you're taking a request in beyond that area anyway, is that we're required to not distinguish between those rides within the 3/4. And so then outside the 3/4 mile, the standards end up being somewhat the same. Could you try to do that? I could ask, Tierza to come up here, but I don't think that's a very easy thing to do, especially when federal requirements are to say, hey, a ride is a ride, and you really don't able to distinguish that. It's just a comparable service.
I mean, that's a very poor way for the feds to look at this, because not all rides are equal. I mean, that's all there is to it. But also, I do have a question here about the total cost of the paratransit budget, and also exactly how much a person who takes a paratransit actually pays per ride.
Right. For the paratransit system per ride, the cost is $23 a ride.
They don't pay that, but I mean, how much do they actually pay?
Yeah, so that's what for the system, it's $23.
Right.
Each person pays $2.
$2, okay.
Right. And then if it's a nighttime service, it's $4, just to clarify that.
And also, the total budget for paratransit, do we have a rather fixed budget for that?
Mm-hmm. The budget, they're generally about equal between fixed route and paratransit, but they're about $3 million apiece.
And then finally, in economics, there seems to be a law that says the cheaper the cost of a service, the greater the use. So I guess I would suggest this is part of our problem too. This is cheap, $2 or $4. And so guess what? People are going to be using this a lot more. And also another concern too is we're not trying to integrate this whole paratransit issue with the private paratransit that we have to help relieve some of these problems. Are we going to try to get it more? It's not like this is the only service we have in Sioux Falls. We also have these other two businesses.
Yeah, and we completely understand that. We are looking for ways to do that, to integrate some of the other nonprofit transportation agencies, hopefully some of the private agencies. But certainly one thing that we know is that fares in itself, just increasing fares will not take care of the problem. We just will not generate enough funds to make that happen, but it's part of the solution. And that's why we're bringing this fare and operations study, why we're doing that now.
Okay, thank you.
Councilors, in a document that Sam handed out on page 4, it outlines the operating expenses for fixed route and paratransit. For the fixed route, it's about $4 million in 2012. For the paratransit, it's about $3.75 million. And then the net cost per passenger fixed route was $3.36 in 2012. Paratransit, $23.26 in 2012. So that may help. Councilor Karski?
A few questions, if I may. This is all really about money when it comes right down to it. And first question would really be, if we could throw money at it and fix it, how much money would we have to throw at this to fix it? To keep it the way it is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's, no real easy answer to that, but just to give you an idea, we don't have enough buses right now to provide the service, and we don't have enough employees. Each bus approaches about $200,000. Employees, their cost for that is, going to be, how much we provide per hour. So, I mean, the thing is right now, we don't even have an adequate spare ratio for maintenance of our vehicles. So we're getting behind on maintenance of our vehicles. A lot of the stories that you hear from a maintenance manager and from a paratransit manager is that there'll actually be a bus in the garage. They're trying to maintain it, keep it where you need it to be, and a paratransit driver will take it from them because they need it. We don't have the ability to maintain our vehicles because we need them out on the street. And that's a difficult item. So we actually need even more vehicles than that just to be able to adequately maintain. So if we were doing it to the appropriate level of service, it would be even much more expensive than that.
Okay. Well, how long is this fix going to take care of the issue that we have? I mean, is this going to buy us a year, 6 months?
Yeah, probably. That's probably about right. We really need to be looking as part of this operations plan what we're going to do. If we have another 5% increase, that is one more bus and one more employee that we need every time we do that, that level of increase. So if we get another 5% increase, we're right back to where we were at.
Okay. And the last question, is there an issue with getting this done now for timing to some way with federal budget or anything along those lines?
No, really, we didn't want to do it in this manner. We would love to have had the operations plan and fair study done, but it really was done out of an emergency situation. If you think about it that way, we just we just don't have the capacity to handle these rides.
Councilor Mbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sam, just a couple of questions. One, just to clarify the subscriptions trips, if I currently have a subscription trip and this were to pass, do I still, and I live outside that 3/4 mile line, do I still get my subscription trip no matter what time of day it is?
Well, I think the only subscription trip that we would have discussion about would be the one after 6:30. I don't believe there's subscription trips after. Is that correct, T? There are. After 6:30 and into the evening?
Yeah.
Yeah. So any subscription trip that you would have would remain, so at any time of the day, yeah.
But I wouldn't be able to change it after 6:30 or during those prime times.
So whatever time period you have, you could keep, yeah.
Okay. Then if I'm looking at the map and I look at the number of pickups outside that dotted line, again, the 3/4 mile range, can you tell me, I know you did a survey and I can't remember, how long was that time period for that survey so that we know that number of pickups? Was that a day, a week?
That was one day.
That was one day.
So a number of pickups.
And there are areas outside that 3/4 mile that we were picking up.
Unless that was a week, because certainly there's a number of those. That was one period of time. I'd have to take a look at that because it goes up to 1,200, and certainly we didn't do that in a day.
I'm just looking at some pretty heavy numbers outside the 3/4 mile area.
Yes. Yeah,
Again,
down in the southeast area.
Right, and I assume that's related to some of the folks that have talked to us.
Correct.
Then one more question, if I might, Mayor. Sam, you talked about every time we have a 5% increase in need in this service, we really need to buy one more bus and we need to hire one more staff person. We've had that 3% or that 5% increase each of the last 3 years, and we have not added either buses or staff people. When that increase in need happens, that 5% increase, do we see a bump in federal dollars to help subsidize that $23 ride or not?
And this is one of the reasons I said we have some significant challenges ahead. We did see with the new MAP 21 bill some additional operating money probably for next year, but capital money has really dried up. This year, we'll get $1.4 million to help us replace fixed route buses. The year before, we had quite a bit of money, federal money, to help us replace paratransit buses. Next year, we'll have $200,000, and that's what we'll get every year as part of this bill as if it stayed. So we are going to have to fund more locally the replacement of our vehicles.
Councilor Entenmann.
Sam, if you could refresh my memory, please. I got two questions here. You stated that 60% of requests for paratransit are during the peak hours. Is that what you said? That's 60% of the requests for paratransit come during those 4 hours or whatever it is. Okay. Why can we or can we not freeze paratransit requests at current levels?
Well, really, we're required within that 3/4 mile area by federal law to provide whatever requests come in, whatever requests are reserved the night before. They have to, at Sioux Area Metro, field those requests. They have no other choice. Otherwise, they could get in trouble with FDA.
Councilor Rolfing.
Sam, I know that some of the nonprofits are working around town trying to take care of some of the transportation problem of some of the lower income people. Have you visited with them at all about volunteers to help in especially the nighttime? I'm thinking where the problem is where you don't have personnel and they could maybe use some of the vehicles or use some of their vehicles to take care of some of this problem?
Yeah, we've had some conversations with agencies like Project CAR. You're familiar with that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They would tend to be more during the day and probably more for people that are not in wheelchairs.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a possibility. That, you know, still those people that still couldn't take the fixed route bus. So we've talked to them about that, and there seems to be some possibilities, I think.
Yeah, I would think that might be a ministry that they would that they could take up if it was. And I'm just looking for ways, thinking in my own mind, ways that you know your services could be turned up without a huge amount of cost or no cost, other than, you know, gasoline kind of thing, or they could be used. So it might be something you could visit with them about, or visit with the chief about using some of their vehicles.
Yeah, and we
they're
actually
set up for that.
We do actually use one of the chief's vehicles right now. It's probably one of the reasons we can get by with with what we have now, is because we do utilize one of their vehicles. They've been great enough for that. We'd like to continue to work with the chief on potential a tripper route.
Right.
That I think I've talked to you about last week. That sounds like it has really great opportunities. We continue to talk with Dakota Abilities, and I think really the key is in large part with those two agencies. Right now, 50% of our rides are those two agencies on paratransit. So we continue to discuss with them, and we think there's great possibilities there.
Councilor Aguilar.
Sam, right now, would you say that by fixed routes, the Southeast District is underserved? Is there not a need? I mean, part of the problem that I see, and I give the advisory a lot of credit, is that we have very few fixed routes within the Southeast District, which I represent in the city. So then there is a high number that, you know, are going to be affected by this in that Southeast quadrant. And it's due to the fact that we don't have any fixed route there. Is that being looked at? Is there no need? Could you give me a little more explanation?
Well, we as part of a route analysis that we did last year, you might remember that we looked at some options to provide services to all parts of the community. And that was one of the areas that did show up as a need. The issue trying to go southeast is just you start to stretch yourself pretty thin on your routes. we're looking at potentially going to the northwest because we think we can do that, and it's an existing route that we'd just be extending. Going southeast might be a little later than that in terms of the requests that we've gotten, but still that's probably a moderate term request.
Well, there seems to be a large number of currently pickups that are happening there. And, you know, it seems somewhat arbitrary that they eventually will lose out because of the fact there's no fixed route in an area that isn't being served by the transit system.
Yeah, well, and it all comes down to money. I mean, it really does to provide that service into that area, and that's what we need to look at. If council, the mayor, administration is willing to do that, we certainly can and would love to do that.
Thank you.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Sam, let's take a look at the peak hours right now as far as the rides that are happening there. Could you give me an example? I know you may not have the exact numbers, but during those peak periods, how many are ambulatory and how many are wheelchair bound?
Yeah, I believe is about 50-50? Yeah, 50-50 during those peak hours. It's 50%, 50%.
And as we've discussed before, especially during these peak periods, Sioux Falls has utilized private-public relationships to a premium. We've done very good at doing that. And I do remember way back in the early days, back in like say the late 80s, we did have a Project Taxi, and I've expressed this to you before. During those peak periods, have we approached the taxi companies that would have enough vehicles to assist us in relieving that pressure during those peak periods? And also, maybe even taking a look at those after-hour periods to assist with those individuals who are working, who may still need assistance.
I think it is something that's in as part of our fare and operations analysis that we'll be looking at. I think the biggest challenge with private providers is if there's, it's just a higher cost fare. Obviously, they can do that now. It's available to them. But typically, I think what you're talking about is helping subsidize that. If you do that, all those rules and regulations from FTA come along with that, and that will tend to scare away those private providers. But it's something we can look at.
Okay, and that's was something that I wanted to see happen, and just, like I said, all of a sudden we have noticed a large increase in cab companies in Sioux Falls. We've talked about working with the nonprofits. We know that those nonprofits have limited vehicles, and that those vehicles could be tied up for special trips that are needed to be made. This also may encourage some of those private cab companies to maybe get minivans that would allow them to also transport people that are wheelchair bound. So I do encourage you, and I'd like to hear even more on that after there's some conversations with those companies.
Will do.
Thank you.
Councilor Jameson.
Sam, your definition of acceptable SAM service, I noticed you'd made a comment about the difficulty in maintaining acceptable SAM service levels. Are there legal or federal
30
guidelines?
minutes.
There are 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
I might have missed that when you said it.
No, probably. But that's typically what federal requirements is. You need to provide the ride within a 30-minute window, which are the typical headways or wait times that we have on our fixed route system.
And I am trying to skirt the system, but the documentation of the 30 minutes is done by the city and therefore verified by somebody who says you are or aren't following.
And I suppose complaints could also, be a part of that.
And if I could, just further, if somebody does complain and the federal government says you guys aren't following it, what would happen?
Well, you know, if you have an ADA request, they usually come in and try to find ways to make it correct. And that would require that we would need to, whether it would be additional funding at a local level to make it happen, or additional or change of services, change of policies.
Okay, well.
Councilor Jamison, if you wouldn't mind, Eric, can I ask you to come forward, please? This is on TV. It's being documented. I think we need a better answer than we wait for complaints to document how we track that. Could you please let the people of Sioux Falls know how we track our times to stay within that 30-minute guideline that the federal government sets?
Yeah, all the trips are computer generated, so we'll have a time recorded when the trip's scheduled, when the vehicle arrives, and that way we can keep track of to make sure that they're within the appropriate pickup window.
Thank you, Eric. Councilor Jamison, that's a little bit stronger answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for doing that. Well, here's, if I could, I'm having a lot of difficulty with this. First, as Sam pointed out, that this is the beginning of significant challenges that we're going to have. But the other thing that's bothering me is the fact that we've, I think Bob mentioned some of these homes that have been built outside of the 3/4 mile service area, and they've set up their operation that way. So anyway, I'm concerned about changing the rules as we go along. And if I could, maybe one more question, if there's a chance for this. The idea that the partnership between the individuals who are served by paratransit, their flexibility, their ability to change their schedules, their times that they need to do things. This ordinance, the resolution would take effect 20 days after it's been published, right, or notified to the public. Right. So I'm also concerned about the timeline allowed for them to change their lives for those who need to. If we needed to allow them a little more time and see if there was a flex that could occur because these individuals changed some things, reallocated the workload and the pressure on the system, has that been considered? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I think it has been. I don't know to the degree that you're talking about. There would certainly be a notice that would go out to anybody, to those individuals. And, I think they were looking at at least a 30-day wait period. But, if council wanted longer than that, it certainly would be considered.
I see. Okay, thank you.
David, to Councilor Jameson's question, would it be possible for the council, if they voted for a certain change, could they implement that change at a later date than potentially the 30-day window?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Rolfing.
Sam, I just want to make sure. I keep hearing this 3/4 mile of a route, and then I see this dotted line all the way around on this map that's up there. You're talking, this is the, and here it says required paratransit service area. So we're required to provide service within this line, but we're not, according to that, because we only do it within certain hours, within 3/4 mile of a bus route. Is that what I'm hearing?
What's required is a comparable service. It's comparable to the fixed route time periods, comparable service level. So no, it's not all day. But it stays at the same service hours. Actually, it goes even further beyond the service hours of
within 3/4 mile of the bus route.
Of the bus route.
But we still have to do something inside these lines when? Inside the little cloverleaf kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the area that's within the service area for Sioux Area Metro fixed route. So it's just basically it's taking all the fixed routes that you see out there, and it's just taking a line 3/4 mile from the outermost routes that you have, essentially.
Oh. So some of these homes then are outside that cloverleaf.
Right.
Okay. Now I'm catching on that way. It wasn't making any sense. Thank you.
Councilor Stagers.
Yeah, I just have a quick question, Sam. What percentage of the rides are outside the 3/4 area?
What percentage of the
Yes.
homes? That I don't know. Does Eric? Do you? I don't know the percentage, but it's about 2,500 a month. 2,500 rides a month.
Councilor Urbanbach?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am really struggling with this, as are many of my colleagues. And I have come to the conclusion that we're voting on this prematurely. I'm going to encourage my colleagues to vote no on this tonight, because I really think that we need to step up as a community. We need to make life, keep life as full as possible for as many people as possible. I think we need to increase rates on paratransit and on the fixed routes. I think we need to build a more sustainable bus system, both for paratransit and for fixed routes. I think we need to build a sustainable budget for paratransit and for fixed routes. And I don't think we can do that until we see the 2014 budget and how this is going to play out. So there's not a motion on the table yet. I would certainly make that motion if I could, but I would encourage you to vote no, and let's hold off on this until we see the 2014 budget.
Councilor Urbanbach, do you want to make a motion?
I would make a motion to approve.
I would second.
Councilor Urbanbach's made a motion to approve. The item is read. It was seconded by Councilor Karski. Councilor Karski.
I made some similar notes as Councilor Urbanbach, and I'm really leaning towards, well, I'm going to encourage no vote on this too. I heard from several people, and a lot of it comes down to our bus route moved, so we moved, but they didn't. They're in the same house that they've been in for 5 or 10 years, and now we're giving them 3 weeks or 30 days to move or find something different, kind of like Councilor Jameson said. I don't think that's right. We haven't looked at increased fares. I haven't seen anything. We haven't looked at increasing our budget for this service. I know that a lot of work went into this, but I don't think we've been given all the right options or enough options to consider. We've been given one, and on the surface, it's going to solve the problem, but I don't think it's our best fix right now.
Councilor Aguilar.
I too am going to vote against this motion because I feel that it's important that we look at the total picture. I think that this is a Band-Aid, and I think that we need more than a Band-Aid at this point.
Councilor Jameson.
I would say, yes, this is a very painful night to be on the council, and nobody wants to deny service to citizens. But I do have one other question for Sam, if I could.
Please.
Sam, I believe it was 40,000 or so that was received from Medicaid. And that's only available or collected if it's a trip to a hospital or a doctor's appointment, something that qualifies for Medicaid funding. And if all of those individuals were screened out and sent over to the other providers in the city who are equipped and set up to handle that, and our Medicaid providers, Sioux Falls Wheelchair Service and Wheelchair Express, I think are the names. Do you have any idea how many people we're talking that could be diverted out of the...
The number of Medicaid rides per month?
Yes.
Do you know, T? There's about 500 rides a month. But, to expound on that a little bit, the Medicaid reimbursement rate is actually higher than we typically would get on our local level of the $2 rate. The non-ambulatory rate, I believe, is about 17. So we actually recoup a fair amount of our costs on that particular ride. I think it's lower for an ambulatory ride. But so in some ways,
I see.
That helps.
I see, right. You do get help because you're collecting more than the $3.
It still doesn't make up the $23 charge, but...
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Just want to make a statement on this. Is when the paratransit started back in 1990, they were at capacity almost from day one. I want to really commend the transportation companies here that have managed the transportation system in Sioux Falls. It has been an extremely difficult thing to do in a city that has grown very fast. I know that with paratransit, within the legal bounds of the contracts with the federal government, that they have looked for many ways to reduce or restrict the number of people on that service. And even by upgrading the requirements, they still kept growing. This is something, and I want to congratulate my colleagues here tonight, because I didn't want to be overbearing on this subject. You know, it's something that I'm very, very deeply interested in and emotional about, because I was a driver. I transported a lot of people here. And the one thing I want to see is a transit facility that our city is proud of. And I think we have to look at more than just, as Councilman Urfenbach said, we have to look at more than just what we've been presented tonight. I know the PTAB committees are doing that also. There has to be a combination of things here to try to fix this. And I hope that this is just step one here. I also am going to vote against this. I would like to see maybe even a task force made up of the council, the PTAB, you know, some citizens, to really take a hard look at this, the future of transit and the changes, Mayor, that are going to happen as we grow as a city. That financing is going to change. We need to be able to be proactive, look at that, and make those decisions with the intelligence that we're given.
Councilor Rolfing.
Thank you. I want to say two things. I've been with Shelby Roberts when she's been at church on Saturday night in my church, and she's been cussing out the paratransit for not being there quite on time. But she also, and she's also been very pleased to know that the van is warm and the people are very caring who come to get her and take her home. And what a great system that there really is. And so we've got to fix this problem, and the Band-Aid isn't going to work. On the other hand, Sam, you've worked your rear end off on this, I know, and it's what we're going to do tonight of saying no to this is nothing against you or the people that you work with and what you've done here. I think we're just saying we're kind of committed to you to help you find a solution to the problem, not a Band-Aid. So please take it that way, okay?
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
No.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
Intiman?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jamison?
No.
Karski?
No.
Passed 0. It failed 0-8. Item 20.
Item 20 is a second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, transferring real property, 1111 North Duluth Avenue, to the Affordable Housing Program pursuant to SDCL 652.
Mr. Mayor, Council.
One second here. Mayor, question to you. On this, I thought at the beginning of the meeting, we moved 26 ahead of 20.
Yeah, we just finished 26. Now we're on 20.
Okay, excuse me.
Number 20. Yes,
I'm
continue.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm Paul Hess with Community Development. To answer any questions that you may have on the second reading of this ordinance.
This is a second reading. Is there anyone in the audience want to speak to this item? Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve item 20. It was seconded by Councilor Karski. Councilor Staggers.
Yes. How much did the city pay for this property before they transferred it?
1111 was a donation from Wells Fargo Bank. We did not pay anything for the property. Community Development assisted the city street department in taking down and razzing the dilapidated house that was on the property. And we gave the street department $5,000.
$5,000 is how much we have in it. Okay, thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
And that is passed 8-0. Item 21.
Item 21 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, transferring real property, 612 South Willow Avenue, to Habitat for Humanity of Greater Sioux Falls, Incorporated, pursuant to SDCL 652.
Again, this is another property that we, the city, are transferring to Habitat for Humanity to be used in their new construction affordable housing program. We acquired it through intergovernmental transfer with the county for back taxes. This property cost us $5,100 in back taxes.
Thank you, Paul. It's a second reading. Would anybody want to speak to this item? Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve item 21, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. There's no discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Entenmann.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 22.
Item 22 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, transferring real property 1020 South Sherman Avenue to the Affordable Housing Program pursuant to SDCL 652.
Again, this is another property we would be transferring to Affordable Housing Solutions. We received this one again through the county for back taxes paid, which was about $6,800.
Thank you, Paul. This is a second reading. Would anybody want to speak to this item? Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, and we're not tearing this down or anything, is that right?
This one is getting torn down, but it will not get torn down until after we transfer the property, and Affordable Housing Solutions will then pay for that.
So we won't be paying $5,000 to
No.
tear it down? Okay.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Rolfing, thank you. Councilor Anderson Jr., thank you for seconding it. Is there any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Entenmann.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
And that is passed 8-0. Item 23.
Item 23 is the second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, transferring real property 821 North Sherwood Avenue to the Affordable Housing Program pursuant to SDCL 652.
And once again, this is a property that the city received from the county for back taxes, and we received this one about 2 years ago. It is a bare lot and always has been. There have been no expenses to the property that I can think of to date. There might have been a weed complaint one time when we first got the property, but I think we took care of that. So it's just a bare lot that's getting transferred again, and this one is a large enough lot that we can probably do a multifamily project on this property without having to replat or do anything to it, as far as Affordable Housing Solutions is concerned, at least.
Move approval, Rolfing. Oh, you've got to get the,
Is there anyone in the audience want to speak to this item? Councilor Rolfing.
move approval.
Is there a second?
Second, Erpenbach.
Seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Staggers.
So no back taxes on this one, huh, Rupe?
This was one of the first properties that we received from the county through this intergovernmental program, and I believe that we got it from the county for less than $2,000 in back taxes.
Okay, so we paid $2,000.
I think
roughly.
somewhere right at that, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Entenmann.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 24.
Item 24 is a resolution appointing an audit committee member to the City Council Audit Committee.
Yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Yes, I'll speak to this
Thank
as I know Arnie from previous work, and I would highly recommend Arnie for the audit committee. He's a great gentleman and has very, very fine credentials to serve on this committee.
Councilor Rolfing, would you mind explaining who Arnie is?
Oh, yeah. Arnold Martins is a CPA, and he also has his law degree and a couple other things. Very interested in the City of Sioux Falls. He's an auditor for Midland National Life.
Right.
And when I mentioned to him that maybe somebody in his department up there would be interested in taking on the auditing position, as we've been looking for one on the audit committee, he listened to me and he says, you know, that might be something that I'd really be interested in. So we recruited him for this, and I think he'll be a fine addition to our committee.
Councilor Rolfing, would you mind making a motion to approve this?
I will move his approval.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Rolfing has made a motion. It was seconded by Councilor Karski. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 25.
Item 25 is a resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards. Those boards being Board of Health, Falls Community Health Center Governing Board, Carrie Benz and Linda Karnoff. For the Falls Community Health Center Governing Board, Nathan Kasselder. For the Board of Historic Preservation, Jennifer Dumke, Ed Lund, and Adam Nyhog. For the Human Relations Commission, Sarah Bauman, Vicki Harkness, John Jones, Jack Mortensen, Henry Sayre II, and Johnny Walker.
Council, would anybody be willing to make a motion?
So move, Anderson.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson Jr., thank you very much for making that motion. Thank you, Councilor Emmerman, for seconding it. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 27.
Mr. Mayor, could
Yes.
we introduce Sarah Bowman is in our audience, and I'd like to introduce her as one of our new Human Relations Committee.
Oh, very good, very good.
Sure.
Sir, would you mind standing? Thank you for coming tonight. Councilor Rolfing, thank you for doing that. Item 27.
Item 27 is a resolution vacating the public right-of-way on West 3rd Street from North Main Avenue to North Phillips Avenue.
Good evening, Chad Hebe with the Engineering Division of Public Works. This portion of 3rd Street does contain utilities, and the west half of it is paved. But it is not a through street, and the paved portion of this is just more than a parking lot. The petition was signed by all of the adjacent landowners. If the right-of-way is vacated, a partial utility easement will be maintained, and the vacated right-of-way will be used for redevelopment.
John, thank you. Is there anybody who wanted to speak to this item? Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Karski. Yes, Councilor Jamison?
Chad, where is the next access point to Phillips Avenue? That north, I guess I would say.
North of that, 2nd Street.
It will still be there, and there's no plans to vacate that? It's already there, isn't it?
It's already there, yeah.
There's still no plans to vacate that?
Not at this time.
Very good.
Yes, Councilor Anderson Jr.
Chad, is there access off 3rd Street? That just sort of dead ends into...
Off of 3rd?
Yes.
No.
Doesn't that just dead end into property?
Yeah, if you come off of Main, the first, let's just say 100 feet or 200 feet is a paved area that's just nothing more than a parking lot. You can't get from Main to Phillips. Well, you can get there, but you'd have to.
That'd be between the Lloyd development and the church.
You couldn't get there today because it was very muddy, but it is not a through road.
Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
And for
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Councilor
We're
Staggers?
supposed to have a hearing date on this.
We're voting on setting a hearing date for Tuesday, June 11th, just so we know. Okay? So, council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Staggers. Appreciate that. Pass 8-0. Folks, I'm now going to turn over the gavel to Council Chair Erpenbach. The next three items I've got nothing to do with, and I can't have anything to do with. So I am now going to pass it over to Council Chair Erpenbach. Thank you for your service. Come on over.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're moving into our traditional, this happens every year, the third meeting of the month of May, where the council elects its chair and its vice chair. So we'll start with item 28.
Item 28 is election of city council chair.
Given that, I would entertain nominations for city council chair.
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Jim Entenmann.
I have a nomination. Do I have a second?
I second it.
I have a nomination and a second for Councilor Jim Entenmann as chair. Do I have any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Super. That goes 8-0. Yeah, good luck. Thank you, sir. And now we'll move on to item 29.
Item 29 is the election of City Council Vice Chair.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I would like
Councilor.
to nominate Dean Karski.
I have a nomination. Do I have a second?
Second Aguilar.
I have a nomination and a second. Do I have any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Good luck to you as well, Counselor. Thank you for your service. Item number 30.
Item 30 is election of fourth member to the Council Operations Committee.
I will take nominations for that. Remember, that's an all representative on that Operations Committee for the whole council. Counselor Karski.
I'd like to nominate Councilor Rex Rolfing for that position.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second Intamin.
I have a motion and a second to nominate Counselor Rolfing. Do I have any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That passes 8-0. Appreciate your service from all of you. I will, yes, Counselor Intiman.
I'd like to take this opportunity, if I might, to thank you for your chairmanship of the council. You've done an excellent job. It's very time-consuming. I think we can all appreciate the work that you've done. And on behalf of the rest of the City Council, I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you all very much. If there's no other business to come before the body, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. This meeting's adjourned.